Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back to our capital ship. So close to being finished, but so far away. In today's episode, I plan on making a big stride to getting this thing finally completed, at least in terms of its basic shape, as today we are going to attempt to complete the command bridge and the entire front section here, which will form the third prong of the ship. Now, this shouldn't be too hard, it's mostly just sculpting. However, it will also incorporate a lot of the new storage system and the submarine bay, so that bit will be a little bit fiddly, but I'm hoping we will be able to complete it today. In addition to that, I will be looking for a solution to a problem I've been facing with the AA turrets. Now, these turrets I absolutely adore, and they've quickly become my favourite type of advanced cannon, the flak cannon with a timed fuse controlled by the turret. However, a weird issue, they are shooting too fast. They are all shooting so quickly, the shots are despawning before exploding, which is a massive issue. And it turns out that's what was causing the lack of DPS when fighting the thruster craft during the last test of the cannons. Some of the shots simply weren't reaching the target, and I didn't realise until afterwards, when I forced degraded mode not to turn on, that this was the case. There are simply too many friendly projectiles in the air, and From the Depths cuts these out to ensure the game doesn't crash. So that's a massive issue, and there are two major ways we can fix this. The first way is to simply lower the amount of cannons, but that will also reduce the amount of redundancy, which I really don't want. The second option, and the option I'm probably going to go with, is to change how the cannons actually function in terms of gauge and the types of shells they shoot. They will still shoot flak shots, however, they will have a much bigger explosion radius and a much higher gauge, simply being shot at a slower speed. So we're going to simplified ammo with a larger gauge and shooting at probably half of the speed is my goal, so that will still hopefully be very effective. It simply just won't pepper the sky with shots. It will have a lot of very explosive shots in its place, which I think will work absolutely perfectly. Also, before that drives me insane, let's just quickly go into colour replace mode, and white, and plink. There we go, now everything is better. Okay, let's get started on the command bridge. On the front section, I don't really know what to call this, as both of these prongs are also the front of the ship. Let's just call it the centre of the ship for now. As I've been building the basic shape for this centerpiece, it has occurred to me we are going to have so much spare space on this ship, as originally I'd intended to add a lot of the resource storage to the empty cavities of the ship. But then I've kind of realised that actually we don't need that much space for that, as it's incredibly space efficient in terms of how much storage you actually get per block. Most of these are incredibly small, and you get a load of resource per item, so we only need maybe one, maybe two rooms at most dedicated to this sort of thing. And even then, we can make them pretty, make them very spaced out, have our avatar able to walk through them, but regardless, we don't need that many rooms. I had originally envisioned perhaps 6 rooms filled with this stuff. Now I'm looking more like 2, maybe just 1. So we have a load of space now we need to fill with functional components, or at least to make pretty. And the centre is no exception. There are going to be 3 cavities here which need to be filled with something useful. And I think I've got the basic idea for this section here. Behold! Hidden missiles! Nice, simple, easy to use, easy to make, and they just look lovely. I adore hidden weapon systems, and this way we can have incredibly short range anti-air missiles. So these are going to be very small missiles, they're going to be very short-lived in the air, but they're going to be remarkably agile. The weapon system itself will only open if an enemy is within, I think I'm going to set it to about 700, maybe 800 meters, and then they will fire after a few seconds just to make sure that the missile doesn't hit the hull on the way out. So yeah, that's what I'm dedicating this area to. We're going to have hidden missile systems. I'm not quite sure the finished shape just yet, but this is what I'm going for right now. now, and I'm going to start adding a lot of anti-missile systems in the form of missile interceptors on the side here. And then in multiple of the other empty rooms, we're going to start adding anti-missile lasers. Also, sorry for the cuts there. I've had 3 coughing fits in the last 2 sentences. Speaking is incredibly difficult right now. As always, it's time to do a little bit of testing. So the missiles have been set up in at least terms of the spin blocks opening and closing at the right time, and the missiles firing only when certain limitations have been met. So let's see if it works. As long as the missiles don't blow themselves up, I consider this a huge success, especially since I haven't actually tinkered with the missiles yet, so they are pretty much the default missile with the one turnout element and nothing else. So let's summon in a flying squirrel, because why not? Hello flying squirrel, how are you? Okay, they open up correctly. I love that laser, and there goes the missiles. A little bit late, honestly, as it's already been destroyed, along with the flak weapons, which are still disappearing before actually hitting the target. But the big test is actually when it's been destroyed. Okay, there should be a delay from now. I think it's 8 seconds, although it could be wrong. And then they should close back up in a similar fashion to the missile systems here, although they are out of sync at the moment because they aren't perfectly mirrored. There we are, they close back up just fine, and there's no chance that they're going to hit themselves because of how long the delay is between the enemy being destroyed and them closing up. I'm still trying to figure out the time I actually like on the back missiles here, because they are a much bigger system than the front ones, although I may simply sync them all up to the exact same time, so they open up at the same delay and close on the same delay, kind of giving it all a nice synchronized feeling. Okay, anyway, happy with that, really happy with that, so let's continue to shape the front and see if we can perhaps get the basic skeleton sorted so I can build off of that. Although it runs the risk of making the centre look a little bit too blocky once again, I've decided to copy the pattern from the back over to the front. Now, there are 2 major reasons for this. The first reason is that it's heavily fortified, and with that it means we can be a little bit more lax around areas such as the bridge and the back struts, which of course aren't even there yet, making them look a little bit more decorative than actually functional, as we don't have to worry about the centre so much being attached to the main body of the ship. In addition to this, it will lead to a much more spacious inside, as it's going to be very similar to the Great Hall in terms of its size, which is great for perhaps anti-missile lasers, which could be placed at the top here, or even anti-missile interceptors, which could come out the side, come out the top. I don't really know just yet. All I know is the more space we have, the better, because even if we don't end up using it, it does mean we have a lot more flexibility down the line if we ever need to retrofit the ship with new engines, if we ever need to change it in the campaign to come in Seasons 4, we have all of the space to work with. And finally, I think I'm now happy with the top of this section. It's a bit more industrial looking than the rest of the ship. It looks a little bit more dark and dreary, but it still has the wooden walkway, I suppose. It wouldn't be a runway because nothing comes off it, and it's all nicely curved off, so pretty happy so far. I think we're doing the right thing, but the only thing which concerns me is the fact that we're not going down fast enough. It's simply a matter of this needs to get to this height by the end, and right now it simply isn't looking like it's going to look natural. It's going to be quite a steep decline, and that's not really what I want it to look like. After looking at the dimensions of the very front of the ship here, I think it's only fair we add one more weapon system to the centre of the ship, and in this case, as we already have advanced cannons, a giant laser with more lasers being added in the future, and a lot of missiles, I think it only makes sense we add a custom cannon. A little bit outdated now and always on the edge of being removed in the future. I still absolutely adore these things. They're simple, easy to put together, they are the ultimate novice weapon other than perhaps missiles, and they are just devastating. Even now in the era of the advanced cannon, they are devastating. due to their sheer amount of damage, high accuracy, and very fast fire rate with minimal effort. We're probably going to be adding a triple or quad barrel to this thing, so a tri or quad barrel, with maximum gauge and maximum explosive damage up until the point of diminishing returns, with as much armor piercing as we can fit on afterwards. The armor piercing will be an afterthought, as I just want to make sure these things pack a punch rather than be specifically good versus metal. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. I think we have enough space for this fairly easily. We do have a very deep setting here. The only concern is making it so it has a permanent high fire rate without having to reload. It's very easy to make a fast fire rate cannon. It's a bit more difficult to fit enough ammo boxes so it can continuously drain from the ammo storage to a degree where it can keep up that fire rate. So let's smooth off the edges, let's fill in the walls, and let's begin work on that. Behold, the Behemoth. Now this is a ship I've not seen in a very long time, so naturally we're going to be using it for target practice. Let's see just how well the front turret does against something made mostly of metal. Okay, well, the turret's functioning, and yep, there it goes, cutting through it like butter. So custom cannons really do have that lovely simplicity of bigger is better. The more you add to them, the better they are, without almost any major negative consequence, other than, of course, recoil. Whereas advanced cannons, there is more of a balance to be had. Making them bigger doesn't necessarily result in better results, whereas larger custom cannons are almost always better than their smaller variants. So as a result, our front cannon is doing exceedingly well. And in fact, that's the reason why I had to rein back my old cannons on the bunker, purely because it was doing so much damage, it was just eradicating the Onyx Watch, which wasn't very fun to watch. However, now we've already beat them in the past, I think we'll be a little bit more cruel to them, now that we're restarting the campaign very soon. So, very happy with the front cannon, so much so I'm most likely going to be replacing these two turrets with custom cannons, because I just don't like them. These are kind of proof that bigger isn't always better. The Star Cannon is better, and actually the flak cannons are better, even against ships, than these two turrets. I've just had an idea, which I think will make building the rest of the ship significantly easier. Rather than having the submarine hatch on the bottom of the craft and then using a lot of control blocks to get it out of range of the main ship as soon as possible, we could take a leaf out of the Twin Guards book and have a submarine hatch on the front of the ship using an opaque shield as a kind of door system. This way, since most subs will be significantly faster than the capital ship, it will release the subs and allow them to go out of the shield very quickly in a protected manner straight into the water, and most likely won't be clipping the capital ship at all. This should be a lot less effort to design, and we do have the space, as although this cannon is rather big, as you can see there, we still have all of this space spare, so that is probably the route I'm going to take, just because it makes it easier on me, and it makes the front look a bit more purposeful, as at the moment, when this eventually spikes, it would look a bit out of place, and of course having this as a bay would keep it more of a curve than a spike, which I think will look a little bit more natural, although we can only tell once it's actually crafted. We've hit a slight problem. It turns out when viewed from above the water, the shield goes simply invisible. Look, here it is below water, here it is above water, and that makes it look a little bit weird. Now this is being caused mostly because of the air pump visual glitch, which is this weirdness where the water goes transparent. Now that occurs when you have air pumps manning multiple rooms at once, or at least multiple rooms being used with air pumps in the vicinity, it can cause this to happen, which isn't very nice at all, and as you can see, it does affect shields in quite a horrible way. So what we've got to do is we are going to be keeping the shields, but we need to make this look a little bit more protected and enclosed as well. So we're going to break this back a little bit further, so we're going to probably dial it back to about here, and then we're going to use this space to make it look a little bit more edged, a little bit more curved, and to make it look just a little bit more protected, because right now it's simply a hole at the end of the ship. Working on the underbelly of the ship truly gives me a certain appreciation for the scale of this build. At the moment, it just looks immense, and that is rather daunting. But regardless, we've put down the basic box of a room, and it's only serving a purpose right now as to show us just where everything's going to go, rather than actually look good, and that's probably how it's going to stay, because there's not much need to make this very aesthetically pleasing, or at least not until we do stuff on the inside. The inside definitely needs work. It needs to look pretty, it needs to be accessible by the avatar, so of course we're going to work on that. But on the outside, we're never going to see it, so I think it would be a bit of a waste of time and resource to add too much to there. The only things I do want to do is make it look like these connection points actually connect, and also work on certain areas like, where are you, here, which just obviously were added when another section was added, so once that's worked on, I don't really see anything else we need to do. But there we are, so we've got the basic underbelly there, we have the basic shape for the submarine docking area at the front. I'm not 100% happy with it. We have the turret, we still need to pretty it up and figure out just how much we can defend on the underside here. In fact, what I could do straight away, because I know this will work, because I just looked at the size, we can put down a simple beam there, so we can't see inside the ship. Excellent. And we do need to improve the dock itself, though. Again, I'm not happy with that at all. But we have the basics, and there's the thing, that was the goal of today, to put down the blueprints, to put down the skeleton of everything we're going to do. Also, at some point, I am going to make a variant of this whole ship using the massive custom cannons rather than things like the lasers and the missiles, just so we have a sheer spam of cannon fire, because we could easily put one of those on there, one of those on top, one of those on the back. We could raise the bit there to add another one. I think we could probably add about 6 or 7 of these turrets on this ship at the moment with its current size. The only part I'm truly happy with is this part here. I'm really happy with how this has turned out, but perhaps that's just because I'm a sucker for the hidden weapon systems. So what next? What do we do next? I think what we should do is start cleaning up the side here, so it's all done, and then we should perhaps start working on the inside, so the sub-dock itself, and perhaps try and finish it, although the goal, like I said, was to make a skeleton. If we can finish off the sub-dock, that's a whole lot less work we need to do. Also make it so this section isn't just floating in the water and actually attaching to the side in some logical way. I mean, we could just do bridges. The obvious thing is just to do a bridge from the side to there, because it's the perfect height, and perhaps make that look decent. That way it's at least being suspended by the side. And that's probably what I will do. Although I'm going to try and figure out a more imaginative way to do it, as it's a bit too obvious. I may have been a little bit distracted starting to finish off the Great Hall, and now it is really close to being finished. The top section now has a nice glass panel so we can see all the laser system. The walkway has been a little bit revamped so it looks a bit cleaner, and the bottom is now actually a room rather than just leading into the ocean, which is also really good because it means we've been able to put air pumps in certain places, which means the ship is now completely above water. Even the front is just about above the waves, and of course that'll be fixed with hydrofoils at the end, so that's really good. I feel we've done a lot of things. I've also stripped back one of the pieces here just because I do need to edit this a little bit, so I'm testing different styles of opening hatch, so ignore the fact there's a giant gaping hole. So before we finish, I think we should put down a final design for the outside wall here, and perhaps put down a skeleton structure for the 2 connecting pieces here. Right now the ammo structure is going to be put underneath, which is where it was meant to be originally. I only put it there for ease of use while I was messing around with the AA cannons, and we just need to finally make it so the entire top section at the back is close to being done. So at long last we can look at it and realise just how the ship is going to look at the end. I'm not sure if this is me being lazy or me just liking very simple, very clean designs, but I've decided I'm going to go with the exact same pattern from the front all the way back to the very back of the ship. This way I just feel it looks a lot more uniform, it looks like one actual structure rather than several melded together, and it gives the whole thing a little bit of continuity. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, as for this back section, I am really of two minds. The first idea is for this to dip down as a walkway and then allow the avatar to simply walk at this level, so it's actually on the very deck of the ship, maybe have some railings on the side, and then just have this as a bit of open area. Or, the second part of my mind, which actually wants it to be a bit more fortified, just wants this to carry on, turn around, and go all the way across. Perhaps a little bit thinner, so the sides are a bit more pronounced, so it spirals a little bit, maybe even building a small tower at the back, I'm not sure. So, again, one of those choices which is going to impact the area in a big way. But before we do that, what I'm going to do is just clear up this, actually make this connect correctly, and have a bit of a brood and a thought of how we're going to do that. So, I think I've decided what I want to do. I'm just not sure how I'm going to do it yet. I think it's going to stay as a walkway. The main reason is it separates the two sides a little bit more. With the centre currently melding them together a little bit more than I would like, this bit will function to separate them once more. At the back at least, it looks like the two sides are indeed two sides rather than one solid mass, one whole ship, which is kind of the look we were going for from the very start, which has been lost a little bit with recent additions. But with that, I'm afraid I am all out of time. If you have enjoyed today's episode, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future. This build is taking a lot longer than I expected, and I do appreciate that. So, I think I will be starting Season 4 very soon, but continuing to build this during the season, as right now, I just can't see myself finishing this in time for the new season to actually begin. It is holding up a lot of progress of the game, and I don't want to rush this ship. That's the main thing. I want to look at this ship at the very end and think to myself, this is the vehicle I am proud of, this is the capital ship. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.